How do you change your identity? How do we change your identity? Once again, our identity governs our actions. And so if we can change our identity, once again, we'll be able to take the behaviors, make the decisions, do the things, right, to get us to where we want to be. So let's dive in. Okay, there's a couple actionable steps. Number one way to change our identity is purpose. Purpose is so important. I'll say this, what felt like overnight my identity changed from being a kid to being the man of the house. That responsibility was real to me. I felt like everyone not only expected me to do great things, but they were relying on me to do great things. And that, when my dad, left, and that newfound identity caused me to do things that I probably wouldn't have done otherwise. Things like getting clear on my goals, getting curious about wealth, and becoming just obsessed with finding ways to acquire wealth and accomplish these goals without sacrificing what matters most, which is my family, right? It's a hard thing to do, and I didn't have a family at the time, but I knew that I would. The only thing that I ever knew I wanted to be was a dad, right? So I wanted to make sure that I didn't fall into the same trap of allowing my time to be consumed by anything that would put my family in jeopardy. And listen, I believe that my dad moved to Western Samoa to pursue that business venture with the best of intentions. And I really believe that. But intentions can very easily become blurred, right? Especially if they aren't rooted in what we call a definite major purpose, a definite purpose, right? For example, I believe that my dad went into that business, venture with the intention of bettering the life of his family, not the opposite. History has shown me though that that's a good intention, but it's not a definite purpose, right? My definite major purpose, it's threefold, okay? Number one, providing time with family. And listen, Dallas, help me understand this, like truly dial it in, right? And I knew it, I just didn't know that I knew it, right? But for example, number one, time with family. Providing my family the life that they deserve is number two. And just being number three, being in a position to better the lives of all those around me, right? So time with family, being in a position to provide my family the life that they deserve, and just being in a position once again to better the lives of everyone around me. The most important piece of that though is time, right? It's time. I cannot provide my family the life that they deserve or better the lives of all those around me if I'm never around, right? So that's key. That purpose has been rooted in me for as long as I can remember. So anytime that I found myself being consumed with a business, I would course correct. There wasn't this internal battle. That decision was simple to me, right? If the opportunity presented didn't have the potential essentially to lead me closer to my definite major purpose, the decision was to choose another path. But on the other hand, when I saw opportunities that did have the potential to lead me to that purpose, the decision was simple, to put all my effort in the direction of those opportunities. There wasn't this internal battle. My mom's journey, right? My mom's journey taught me that defining that purpose will certainly help us, keep putting one foot in front of the other. But, when things get tough, me personally, I needed trials. I needed trials to in order to really, find a way to live the life that I do today here in Maui. I'm so grateful for those. Even if it hurt a little bit in the short term, God knew that those trials would lead me to setting a definite major purpose. And he knew that, and setting a definite major purpose far before I had any idea even what that even was. Those trials have rooted that purpose in my life and has continually allowed me to shape my identity, right, in the direction of achieving those things. What a great advantage. It's just a huge advantage. My hope for you is to show you how to do those exact same things and how to do those without going through so many damn trials. Okay, we're gonna show you how to get that done as well. Which brings me to number 2, right? And that is where learning how to maximize time and energy comes into play. First, Dallas has created systems that will help you learn how to actually define what your definite major purpose looks like, right? Which is very important. You'll understand how to get crystal clear on what matters most and how to clear out the trivial distractions in our lives, right? And you'll see that by defining that, it makes decision making easier. It makes it easier to make decisions, and it honestly makes burdens lighter as well. All that being said though, it is a lot easier to take action if we know what to take action on, right? Dallas taught me, and he'll teach you the same things, which is not only how to define your purpose, right? But how to actually break that purpose down into these actionable steps, right? And that is one of the most influential aspects that Dallas has been able to show me. And I'm gonna show you essentially how to do that, okay? I want you to think of this in 4 steps, okay? 4 steps. We have our purpose, right? But then we break it down, not into yearly goals, okay? We have our 12-week target goal. That's number 1. Write this in your notes, by the way. I promise you're gonna wanna write this down. Once again, one of the most influential aspects. Influential. Is that a tough word? I'm struggling to say it today, okay? I wish Dallas could help me with that, okay? Taking these steps, these goals, right, and breaking them down into actionable steps. So number 1 is a 12-week target goal. Okay, number 2, write them down. Number 2 is major progress points, okay? Major progress points. And I'll explain all of these, just write them down. And then number 3 are actions and tasks, right? Actions and tasks. And then number 4, daily and weekly habits. Daily and weekly habits. So number 1, 12-week target goals. Number 2, major progress points. Number 3, actions and tasks. Number 4, daily and weekly habits, okay? Daily and weekly habits. Let's dive into these. We'll start with our 12-week goals, but first, okay, when defining these goals, we have to remember this ancient Vietnamese proverb, okay, which is, write this down as well, just in case you can't see the screen, but write this down, okay? This is an ancient Vietnamese proverb, okay? It's spelled P-H-U-K, second word, H-A-U, which I'm just realizing that I spelled it wrong on my slide, okay? I did H-O-W, not H-A-U, but the ancient Vietnamese proverb is P-H-U-K, should have, proofread these, H-A-U, okay? Which is pronounced fuck how. And listen, you've gotta say fuck how, you have to, when writing these goals down. That 3-letter word, how, will get in your way. It will get in your way. It stops you from even dreaming. But once that's out of the way, we dive in, okay? We dive in, and the majority of people who set goals, set yearly goals. Well, the issue with that is there's no urgency, and though you may feel like you don't want urgency, you do. The more urgent our goal is, the more familiar we become with the goal, the more likely we are to achieve it. Once again, it's literally how our brain works. The reticular activating system, I'll walk you through how this brain works. This brain in here, okay? The reticular activating system, better known as the RAS, it's a bundle of nerves in the base of the spine that filters out anything that it deems unnecessary. If we don't set a deadline, that urgency, if we don't set a deadline that creates urgency, our RAS will begin to work against us instead of for us, because it can go both ways. So if we don't set a deadline that creates urgency, the RAS, reticular activating system, will start to work against us. And it'll start to screen out people, places, things, resources, etc., that could potentially help us get to the goal, simply because we haven't made the goal an urgent priority. We have to make a goal urgent. So the first step of this process is to take our yearly goals and shorten them down into 12-week goals. These need to be measurable, specific goals. Our brain can't start taking action on something that's abstract. It starts taking action on something that's specific. So measurable, specific goals. It's not, I want to lose weight. It's how much weight do you want to lose? It's not, I want to spend more time with my family. I literally have my goal this week, this quarter, is to go on 20 one-on-one dates with Brittany, and to go on at least 10 one-on-one dates with Paxton, and 10 one-on-one dates with Marley. Those are measurable, specific goals. There's a great book, by the way, by Brian T. Moran, okay? It talks about this. It's called The 12-Week Year. Great book. Essentially, how to get more done in 12 weeks than most people do in 12 months. It's a great book. But, you know, what we usually do is we dial in like 3 of these 12-week target goals. And by the way, the journal, Dallas's journaling system, helps with that. Okay, it literally lays all this process out for you. It helps with that. And this step will help, but it's not the game changer. The game changer comes in understanding how to break these quarterly goals into smaller, actionable steps. So, major progress points, right? Number 2, major progress points. This is the first step in breaking down our target goals, our goals, right? So once we know the 3 or 4, quarterly target goals that we're going to accomplish, we can then identify major progress points for each one of these along the way. Okay, for example, let's say that our target goal is to read 10 books for the quarter. That's our target goal, 10 books for the quarter. Some of your major progress points might be defining exactly what books to read. That's a step, right? Okay, another might be to set deadlines and reminders in a calendar ahead of time, and I'll explain that as well. And then another one might be to actually buy each of the books, right? These are your major progress points. Each one of those get us closer, right, to the quarterly target goal. And once again, we usually identify, 3 major progress points for each 12-week target goal. And most people can define the goal. Most people can define the target goal, but few achieve their goals because they don't define the steps necessary to get there. Major progress points are clear, trackable steps which can be measured, right? Which also allows us to monitor our progress. And it might go without saying, but the progress points, these major progress points, have to be linked to your end 12-week target goal. Once they're defined, right, they'll help us identify the weekly and the daily steps needed. Once again, Dallas has tons of videos and trainings and things that help us dial these things down. Absolute game changer. So number 3, though, is we need to take our actions and tasks. Actions and tasks that will get us to the major progress points. So playing off of our earlier example of, reading 10 books, we need to, let's say that we take the major progress point of defining exact books to read. Define the exact books to read, okay. The actions and tasks might look like, number 1, to ask all your contacts for referrals on the best books to read. Ask your contacts what the best books are to read. Number 2, maybe research the top 20 on Amazon. Research the top 20 on Amazon. And then number 3, list out the top 10 on a spreadsheet to track. I've used Google spreadsheets in the past to track the books that I read. I've used Evernote to put, to track, that's actually what I do now, to track the books that I read. And this may seem menial, okay? It may seem menial, but it is, in reality, it's absolutely critical because the number 1 differentiator of success is execution. Execution, and breaking these steps down make executing so much easier, so much easier. So we have to break them down. Then from there, we have step 4, which is our daily and weekly habits. The daily and weekly habits that we need to create, once again, going with our example, the daily and weekly habits may be reading 60 minutes each morning. Reading 60 minutes each morning. Reading every time you go to the bathroom, right? Instead of cruising Facebook like I know y'all do, and don't lie to me either. I know y'all do, okay? So read when you go to the bathroom, right? These are your habits that you want to start creating. I read a book that was referred to me from a gentleman at the class, at one of my classes. His name is Chris. And that book is called Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg. Great book. And essentially there's these starter steps, right? There's these, to break down a goal, the easiest way to do that is to have these smaller goals to get us there. Dallas is a master at helping us understand that. And that is something that, once again, I've become very good at and has played a huge role in the success that I've been able to achieve. And then also, the last step in this whole process is we have to be able to do a daily and a weekly review, also a game changer. Reviewing our progress daily and weekly will make sure that the RAS, deems that our goals are necessary and urgent, reviewing them, right? In turn, the more the RAS, the reticular activating system, will reveal resources, partners, and opportunities that'll help us move the needle. Creating the habit of reviewing progress daily and weekly will also keep us focused on the things that, once again, will actually move the needle. Motivations and focus tend to get a little bit distorted in the heat of the battle, which makes them a little bit more difficult to recall. But man, when we're reviewing each week, right, we begin to internalize those things, right? So this first step is to review our progress. And the next step will be to identify the top 3 actions and tasks we need to do to get back on track, right? So if we are not on track, what are the top 3 actions and tasks that we need to get back on track? Once again, all of this is laid out in the journal, okay? It's a game changer as you go through. Just like all of our targets though, the weekly and the daily targets need to be measurable results that'll actually get us closer to the goals, right? Once again, Dallas has systems that make all of this just a lot more consumable. He created the daily journal, once again, to track and plan essential items. There's also a mental notes journal to get those beautiful ideas out of your head and on paper with purpose. You're not gonna be on your own either, by the way. Okay, you're not gonna be on your own. That's the whole point. Personalized guidance is what this is all about. So if you're beginning to feel overwhelmed, take a big deep breath and realize that, we all felt the exact same way until we didn't. Most people are already overwhelmed with the trivial instead of the essential. Here's what's crazy, okay? What's crazy, just in case you forgot, this step 2 is all about energy, maximizing time and energy. And though it might seem like a lot of work, when done properly, you'll be able to weed out the trivial many so that we can focus on the essential. It's key. That will result in more time and more energy physically and mentally for sure. Okay, it's breaking them down. All right, number 3 is LIFE. This is an acronym, okay? LIFE is an acronym that Dallas coined that stands for Learn, Implement, Fail, and Evolve. Learn, implement, fail, and evolve. And in life, we only achieve what we believe we're worth, right? And what we believe that we deserve. So actively finding ways, once again, to change our identity is key to believing that we deserve more. So learning, new things, implementing those things, taking action on those things, and embracing the fact that failure will absolutely be part of the process will help you evolve, period. We fear failure, myself included, we do. But Dallas, he helped me reframe failure. That's a game changer for me too. He helped me understand that failure can be, I would look at failure would be a negative towards identity change, but he helped me understand that failure can be a tool for positive identity change instead of negative. Here's a life hack for you too, okay? Here's a hack, you can write this down. I call it recognize when you're in a rut, okay? Because there's gonna be times where things get tough when we get stuck in a rut. So here's your write it down however you want to. I call it recognize, realize, and recreate. Recognize, realize, and recreate. Okay, there's these 3-step process if you're in a rut. Okay, first, we have to recognize. Recognize, shit, I'm in a rut. I'm depressed, I'm bummed, whatever. I try to calculate my energy on a scale of 1 to 10. I do this regularly, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10. And I cannot allow myself to dip below a 7. I cannot, which means I have this internal, radar, right? And if I get to a 6, that means that I'm almost to a 5, that's just coasting, man. That's just coasting, right? And I refuse to make that happen. So I have to go below a 7. So if I start getting there, I have to ask, once again, better questions. Why? which is their step 2, right? Which is first, step 1, recognize. Step 2 is to realize. We have to realize the real lies. My gosh, we tell ourselves these make-believe stories on how we feel, why we feel the way that we do. So we have to realize the real story. We have to realize the real story. So once again, recognize the real lies. Stuck in traffic, let's say. You're stuck in traffic. You live in LA or something. Well, dude, the reality is that's what happens in LA. So recognize that you're not just picked on. Your life isn't so tough. Dude, that is the reality there. So we have to recognize the real lives and then recreate that story, recreate a new energy for how you want to feel. A new story, and that story needs to be backed behind gratitude. Stuck in traffic, man, I'm so grateful to be able to be stuck in traffic right now so that I can listen to this podcast or listen to the GROWTHCAST, which is Dallas's podcast. It's amazing. To better my life and move the needle forward, right? We recreate it. Signal Hill. Once again, I told you about that Signal Hill, deal, and my story, the 122 unit property with the assets out of Houston. My story was, God, Tyler, you're such a freaking idiot. How could you let that happen? How could you let that happen? But that's just a story. The real story, they had goals. They had goals that were not in line with ours. What's wrong with that? Now, should they have maybe handled it differently? Maybe, yes. But dude, it's not that I'm an idiot, it's that they had different goals, right? So the opposite of gratitude, so how we choose to recreate the story, how I chose to recreate the story was gratitude, and gratitude is key because gratitude, the opposite of gratitude is resistance. If you're saying this isn't right, this isn't how it should be, now you're lacking, which is the opposite of abundance, right? Lack is the opposite of abundance, and from lack, you can't attract abundance. So we have to go back to gratitude. Okay? Trying all that is one thing, but dedicating ourselves to a lifetime of that process, that can be challenging. Challenging to wrap our heads around at first. And here's the reality. If you can begin to do things that you believe others aren't willing to do, right? Or even the former self, your former self wasn't willing to do. You begin to believe that this new version of yourself deserves more. The new you, right, deserves more. There is a strategic reason why I doubled down on my efforts when the coronavirus hit, in March of 2020. It's because I'd been coasting. We moved here to Maui, and I'd just been coasting, just hanging out, really not moving the needle in any other area but my family life, which was the whole reason we moved to Maui. So deservedly so, right? But Dallas has trained me to also look for separators, right? Look for separators, ways that I can go against the grain. Separators, this is the way that you change your identity. As everyone else was laying low, coasting through quarantine, I got office space and started logging more work hours than I had in a long time. Why? Because like I mentioned above, we have to search for and find ways to separate ourselves from the majority. This is how we change our identity, but this is also how we believe that we, deserve more by doing things that other people view as hard. All of your goals for the year, for the next quarter, really of all those goals, changing your identity needs to be at the top of the list. What trainings can you take? What books can you read? Who do you need to start hanging out with? What habit do you need to remove? What habit do you need to create, right? Hard or scary is different for everyone. But everyone can benefit from doing hard and scary things because it changes our identity. It changes our identity. And changing our identity is not only how we achieve our goals, listen to this, it's not only how we achieve our goals, it's also how we maintain that success. Maintain that success. If we don't change our identity, we might be able to achieve something in the short term, but we won't keep it. We will start to self-sabotage. But on the flip side, when we do hard things, we separate ourselves from our former selves and actually look back and when we actually look back and acknowledge the growth, I mentioned that earlier, right? It's another thing, right? Like I mentioned earlier, that we have to actually acknowledge that you've done something hard. You know, so many people actually do hard things, but they never give themselves credit. That's a total waste, man. It's a total waste. Anyway, when we do those hard things and pat ourselves on the back, we begin to believe that we deserve more. Our RAS, reticular activating system, kicks into gear to reveal all sorts of situations, people, places, and things that will make sure that that belief is validated. You know, Dallas has a principle called win the morning. And I'm gonna tell you how my mornings used to be. My mornings used to be wake up, look at my phone. Whatever was on my phone would dictate not only my goals and direction for the day, but a lot of times even my attitude for the day. So if what was on my screen, if it was positive, great. If it was negative, everything, I was reacting. I wasn't creating, I was reacting. I'll tell you what Dallas helped me understand and dial in, which is a solid morning routine. And it's not necessarily what time you wake up. I do believe that helps, but it's what you do once you wake up is what Dallas helped me understand. Now I'm gonna tell you exactly what my routine is. I wake up at 4:15. You wanna know why? When I wake up at 4:15 and I do not push snooze, I don't. I step out of bed, wash my face, brush my teeth, use the restroom. You wanna know why? Because immediately I feel like a badass because everyone else is asleep. And a lot of people view waking up at 4:15 as hard, and it is. So what do? I pat myself on the back, and what am I doing? I'm creating, recreating or changing my identity to believe that I deserve more things, that I deserve what it is I'm accomplishing, right? And then what do? I set 3 targets for the day, just like we just talked about. Come hell or high water, I'm gonna accomplish those targets. Come hell or high water, I'm gonna hit those 3 things. I drink a bottle of water, read for 30 minutes, and get ready to go to the gym. But before I even set my targets for the day, I say a prayer of gratitude. I say thank you for at least 3 things. It's a prayer, that's what I say. I also pray for other people. It's only a prayer of gratitude and for helping other people. I believe that if I want more, I have to be grateful for what I have. How did I learn that? My mom and Dallas, the 2 biggest influential mindset mentors in my life, not even a question. Then I literally write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. What this starts to do is change things. Think about that. In the very first part of the day, I have said thank you. I've given love and shown love for other people, praying for other people, right? And I've got clear on what I need to accomplish. I have gratitude and clarity and purpose right out the gates. Dallas has helped me understand that. And I also feel like a badass. Why? Because I did things that other people said that they weren't gonna do. Then what do? I write and say my goals out loud. I write them down and say them out loud. Why? Because the more that we feed our minds, our RAS, our goals, the more that our RAS deems them as important and then filters things and shows us things, people, resources that can help us accomplish those.